Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a chilling and disturbing story from the 1970s about a man known as the Killer Clown. His name? John Wayne Gacy.
These young men and boys should still be alive today had somebody paid any attention to the warning sign.
Buckle up because this is going to be a wild ride. John Wayne Gacy was a seemingly ordinary guy living in Illinois. He was known in his community for his involvement in local events, his work as a contractor, and believe it or not, his clown performances at children's parties. People called him Pogo the Clown.
He painted horrible things like skulls and clowns and creepy things like that, but people bought them and they paid $200 a shot for him to paint these ugly.
But behind that smiling face and friendly demeanor was a dark and horrifying secret. Gacy lived just outside of Chicago, and it was there that his gruesome crimes took place. Between 1972 and 1978, Gacy committed a series of murders that shocked the nation.
Gacy had a diamond-shaped window in his front door, and the front part of his house was dark, but there was a street lamp on the sidewalk in front of his residence. And I stood in front of his door knocking on it. With the reflection of the light into the window, I could see a face staring back at us. Then the face faded into the darkness of the house. And as we walked along the side of the house and looked inside of a window, we could see Gacy sitting in a chair watching television, drinking a beer.
In total, he killed 33 young men and boys, most of whom were lured to his home under the guise of job offers or other seemingly innocent reasons. The scary part? Many of these boys were reported missing, but back then it wasn't easy to track down missing persons.
John Wayne Gacy, a sadistic serial killer that fooled even his closest friends and neighbors.
This is a hard-driving, very hard-working individual. I was astounded.
A pillar of society with a shocking secret.
We took a screwdriver into a little crack in the floor, and when we did, the whole floor lifted up.
He would become one of the most prolific serial killers in American history.
They asked him, well, why did you do this stuff? I was afraid they would expose me. He said they were all just human trash anyway.
The police didn't have the technology or resources we have today, so Gacy managed to evade capture for years. Now you might be wondering, how did he get away with it for so long? Well, Gacy was meticulous. He buried most of his victims in the crawl space of his house. Some were dumped in nearby rivers. It wasn't until 1978, when one of his potential victims escaped and went to the police, that the true horror of what he had done came to light. When the police searched Gacy's house, they found human remains in the crawl space. One by one, they uncovered the bodies of his victims. It was a gruesome and heartbreaking discovery that sent shockwaves across the country. In 1980, Gacy was brought to trial. The evidence against him was overwhelming.
John Gacy was a son of a blue-collar worker, a mother who was a pharmacist. His biological father drank alcohol, but continued to work. He was considered a functioning alcoholic.
From what I understand, he was physically abused by his father, and his father was often not available or was intoxicated. His father was also known for abusing Gacy's mother. In fact, engaging in physical fights with her that Gacy must have witnessed. Now, clearly those sorts of things have an impact on a person's development and the way they look at the world.
He was found guilty of 33 murders, making him one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. The trial was a media sensation, and Gacy became infamous as the Killer Clown. Gacy was sentenced to death, and in 1994, he was executed by lethal injection. But even after his death, his story continues to haunt people. The idea that someone who appeared so normal could commit such heinous acts is truly terrifying. It's important to remember the victims in this story.
His father would come home, he would go down into the basement, into his workshop, not interact with anyone in the family, but had this special thing about his son, whom he felt should be better, more like the father, become a business person, become someone who was admired in the community.
These young men and boys had their lives tragically cut short. They were sons, brothers, and friends, and their families are still dealing with the pain of losing them. Over the years, Gacy's case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and even TV shows. People are fascinated and horrified by his story. It's a reminder of how appearances can be deceiving and how evil can lurk in the most unexpected places. Thankfully, today's advancements in forensic science and criminal investigation make it harder for crimes like this to go unnoticed. But back in the 70s, things were different, and Gacy took advantage of that.
These conspired, but overriding most of these excuses for his failure was the basic fact that John Wayne Gacy was very good at producing justifications and excuses for why he failed.
If there's one thing we can take away from this story, it's to always be cautious and aware of the people around us. Trust your instincts, and if something feels off, don't ignore it. So, that's the story of John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown, a man who seemed like an ordinary neighbor, but was hiding a sinister secret. His story is a grim reminder of the darkness that can exist behind a friendly face.
Gacy suddenly realized that there was something that gave him esteem. It's something that made him stand up in the world, where he could, as it were, stand shoulder to shoulder, and even beyond that, with those individuals around him.
Thank you for sticking with me through this chilling tale. If you found this video interesting, or if it gave you goosebumps, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. What do you think about Gacy's double life and how he managed to fool so many people for so long? Drop your comments below and let's start a conversation. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and always keep an eye out for the unexpected. See you in the next video.